Chapter 461. Do It, Kill Swordsman. Boom! Apart from Jian Wushuang, the Loftiness Lord and the Iron Saber Lord, numerous lords of the Drifting Blood Marquis camp unleashed their powerful auras. Led by the Black Yuan Lord, they slashed toward the approaching puppet fighters. At the same time, many lords of the Pale Moon Marquis camp were also occupied. With a snort, the Myriad Islands Lord launched a series of punches to set up two sets of formation. Following this, the lords of the Pale Moon Marquis, led by the Demon Soul Lord, also fought their way out. The lords of both camps started to do battle. Although the lords maintained their silence and were focused on the puppet fighters, they had a tacit agreement. They would work together to kill the puppet before fighting each other for those 4 interspatial rings. The lords and the puppet fighters collided head-on. Boom! 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 A terrifying roar reverberated through the palace. It was only for a short moment, but the destruction was immense. After all, even though there were a large number of puppet fighters and their battle formation was very powerful, they didn't know how to work as a team. As a result, they were unable to exploit their battle strength. On the other hand, the lords of both camps coped well with Jian Wushuang's realm and were supported by the Myriad Islands Lord's formation. Although their overall battle strength was inferior to that of the puppet fighters, they were able to exploit different fighting tactics to prevail over the puppet fighters. .bg container 63275 CC1F display, flex direction, column align items, center justify content, center Z index, 214-748-3647. Important: it did not take long for the lords to defeat a few puppet fighters. Apart from the 2 lords, there were other lords in the different inner layers of the cave mansions. They rushed to the scene to offer them support when they felt the palace fill with their powerful aura. Things seemed to be going downhill for the puppet fighters as more lords were arriving at the palace to join the battle. It did not take long for half of the 50 gold armor puppet fighters to be killed. This pared their number down considerably. As intended by the lords, none of the 4 golden purple puppets were destroyed. This was because the interspatial rings were in the puppet fighters, and the destruction of a golden purple puppet would immediately result in a battle between the 2 camps. The lords preferred to terminate the gold armors first, then fight for the 4 interspatial rings. This was the obvious plan. Swish! Myriad Islands Lord's intentions were not apparent, but he had been fighting a gold-armored puppet near the Demon Soul Lord. When he noticed that few gold-armored puppets were left standing, he squinted and looked at the Demon Soul Lord. Demon Soul Lord, it's time now. The Demon Soul Lord stared at him. She understood Myriad Islands Lord's meaning and glanced at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's realm was powerful and was the sole reason that they were able to quickly defeat and kill the gold-armored puppets. However, when it came time for the 2 camps to fight for the 4 interspatial rings, Jian Wushuang would become a thorn in the side of the Pale Moon Marquis camp. To draw an analogy, Jian Wushuang would be like a fishbone stuck in a throat. If they couldn't get rid of this fishbone, the Pale Moon Marquis camp would be in torment. Without hesitating, the Demon Soul Lord dispatched the golden purple puppet she had been fighting. Inconspicuously, she flew towards Jian Wushuang. At that same time, the Myriad Islands Lord also seemed to lean towards Jian Wushuang intentionally. Jian Wushuang was outside the battlefield. He wasn't directly involved in the fighting and was focused on using his realm to suppress the puppet fighters. Besides, the Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord were still in front of him. All of those gold-armored puppets are almost defeated, the Iron Saber Lord said with a smile. After all, puppet fighters are not fully sentient. They don't know how to work well with others. Obviously, they're not qualified to be the opponents of our human lords. Furthermore, we have the realm of our friend, Swordsman. Looking at Jian Wushuang, the Loftiness Lord said in admiration, Swordsman's realm is really the envy of us. It's my pleasure to have you two, the advanced lords, to be my guards, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. At this moment, what happened? Jian Wushuang's expression darkened. The Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord both noticed the danger as well. A ghostly figure had suddenly appeared beside Jian Wushuang. Immediately, Jian Wushuang was covered by a terrible killing intent. Demon Soul Lord. The Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord instantly recognized the Demon Soul Lord and also realized her purpose. You want to kill Swordsman? The Iron Saber Lord snorted. He waved his sleeve and unleashed an immaterial wave. The Loftiness Lord held a long purple spear in his hand, but this was just a first-grade magic weapon. It was not as useful as the Dao weapon he previously had. You two can't stop me, get out of here. With a cold voice, the Demon Soul Lord was filled with killing intent. A strange scarlet saber chopped violently towards them. It appeared like a curved shuiyun in the sky. The Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord immediately tried to parry the blow. However, the Iron Saber Lord was only an advanced lord. Previously, he had been able to fight the Demon Soul Lord because he had the Dao weapon in his possession. Without it now, it was difficult for him to oppose her. It was impossible for them to stop the Demon Soul Lord, who was an expert at the level of Superior Lord. Clang! Clang! A collision was heard, followed by the Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord being attacked and thrown sideways. The Demon Soul Lord paused for a moment, then rushed towards Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang made use of the Demon Soul Lord's pause to unleash the triple shift. His figure transformed into a residual shadow and retreated. As Jian Wushuang retreated, he stared coldly at the Demon Soul Lord. Abruptly, Jian Wushuang felt a chill. Instinctively, he turned his head and discovered that someone had appeared behind him. That person was the Myriad Islands Lord. The Myriad Islands Lord realized Jian Wushuang's purpose, and gave him a menacing grin. The Myriad Islands Lord stretched out his palm slowly and a flash of silver light flew towards Jian Wushuang. What's that? Jian Wushuang was shocked. He was soon able to see it clearly. The silver light was a bead. Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt. The Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord also saw the silver bead and their expressions changed dramatically. Chapter 462. Fury. Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt was a kind of thunderbolt. Its power was much greater than that of Purple Heaven Thunderbolt. Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt was also extraordinarily violent. Usually, a single flash could eviscerate a novice lord. Refining Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt into a bead to concentrate its power would result in even more massive destruction. Jian Wushuang had exploited Demonic Grenade once in the Nanyang continent. At that time, he had refined the Thunderbolt to a bead so that its power could explode instantly. However, Demonic Grenade's power paled in comparison to Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt. That's Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt. A few lords from both camps who were nearby also noticed it. When they realized that Myriad Islands Lord had thrown a Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt bead, they were terrified and were worried for Jian Wushuang. A Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt bead explosion next to an advanced lord would kill him easily. Even a superior lord would suffer terrible injuries unless his physical strength matched the Black Yuan Lord's. However, Jian Wushuang was only in the Saint Realm. It was almost impossible for him to survive the Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt. Boy, you are only in the Saint Realm. You should feel lucky to be killed by a Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt bead. The Myriad Islands Lord smiled coldly. It seemed that he was picturing Jian Wushuang's demise by the Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt. Myriad Islands Lord's move was unexpected. .bg container 63275 CC1F display, flex direction, column align items, center justify content, center Z index, 214-748-3647. Important: the Drifting Blood Marquis camp were aware that the Pale Moon Marquis would seek a chance to attack Jian Wushuang. That was why the Black Yuan Lord, the Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord worked together to protect him. However, no one had expected that the Pale Moon Marquis would be so cunning. They had let the Demon Soul Lord, a superior lord, distract him while the Myriad Islands Lord sneaked up on him. This ruse had worked well. The Demon Soul Lord had been held back by the Iron Saber Lord and the Loftiness Lord for a short moment, but no one was able to stop Myriad Islands Lord's Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt bead. These events unfolded so quickly that Jian Wushuang wasn't able to respond immediately. When he realized the danger and wanted to escape, it was already too late. Go to hell! The Myriad Islands Lord roared. The Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt emitted dazzling silver light and exploded. A tremendous power erupted in the palace. The explosion rocked the big cave mansion with a deafening and terrifying noise. The energy released was strong enough to easily outclass and kill an advanced lord. Being less than a meter away from the explosion, Jian Wushuang was exposed to more than 90 of its power. Boom! Visible residual waves from the explosion billowed from its epicenter and propagated through the palace, affecting most of the lords. Many had to close their eyes. After a long time, the palace settled down. Things came to a close. The lords of both camps looked at the place where Jian Wushuang had been. Is he dead? Everyone was thinking the same thing. Swordsman, the Iron Saber Lord's face was clouded over. Look at this blood river, it is still here, a lord of the Drifting Blood Marquis camp suddenly said. Everyone immediately looked at the blood river which was still there. It continued to emit the aura, which had not weakened. Instead, it was still rolling. What's going on here? The blood river didn't disappear. Is Swordsman still alive? He didn't die, did he? Still alive. The lords of both camps were incredulous. Was he still alive? Was it possible? The Myriad Islands lord squinted. The smoke from the explosion had cleared and a figure gradually appeared. He carried a long sword. The clothes on his upper body were split. His skin was darkened, which gave him a wild appearance. Meanwhile, the right side of his body drew attention. It looked slightly red and there were a few tiny wounds on it, but they were obviously superficial injuries. How is it possible? The Myriad Islands lord was shocked. Impossible! The Demon Soul Lord couldn't help yelling. All the lords of both camps who witnessed this were astonished. He didn't die, did he? He wasn't even really injured. There were only a few insignificant wounds on the right side of his body. How was he able to do that? The power of Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt is intense. If I had been in Jian Wushuang's place, I wouldn't have been seriously hurt. It would definitely mess me up. It is impossible not to sustain any nasty injuries, but this little guy. The Black Yuan Lord looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise as a thought suddenly appeared in his mind. What if his body is stronger than mine? He was not aware that when Jian Wushuang was inside the Universal Thunderbolt Pool in Beimo Marquis Cave Mansion, he had already absorbed 37 Purple Heaven Thunderbolts. Now his body was on par with a superior second-grade magic weapon. Even among the lords, Jian Wushuang was already incredible. Although the Black Yuan Lord was ranked first among numerous lords of the two camps, his physical strength was just good enough to reach the requirement of a superior second-grade magic weapon. Compared to Jian Wushuang, he was inferior. In the palace, the lords of both camps were shocked speechless. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang's expression was glacial and he was filled with fury. In the icy depth of his eyes, rage burned. Demon Soul Lord and Myriad Islands Lord. You two got a good trick. Jian Wushuang's voice filled the palace. Its cold tone was reminiscent of December's frost. The sneaky attack that the Demon Soul Lord and the Myriad Islands Lord had launched infuriated Jian Wushuang. The Myriad Islands Lord snorted in response. Actually, you are the good one. A Ninth Heaven Thunderbolt bead exploded near you, but it still couldn't kill you. Little guy, you are so lucky. I'm sorry that I disappointed you too, Jian Wushuang said. I'm still alive, but I'm afraid you guys will die soon. As he finished his words, he suddenly waved his hand. A scarlet figure immediately popped up beside him. The blood puppet had appeared. Jian Wushuang took out 10 blood gems and soon they were all swallowed by the blood puppet. 10 blood gems would allow the blood puppet to show its full power once. Sword Ancestor created the blood puppet. I really want to know the extent of its power. There was a severe expression in his eyes as Jian Wushuang pointed to the front. Blood puppet, kill the two of them. Chapter 463. Kill. As Jian Wushuang dictated the order, the blood puppet transformed into a flash of blood-colored flowing light and flew away. He popped up in front of the Demon Soul Lord. A puppet fighter. The Demon Soul Lord noticed that the blood puppet had rushed to attack her. She frowned but was not really bothered. She had already encountered hundreds of puppet fighters in this cave mansion, including a large number of gold-armored puppets and 4 golden-purple puppets. These puppet fighters had not really threatened her. Moreover, Jian Wushuang was only in the Saint realm, so the puppet fighter that he owned wouldn't be that strong. Get the hell out of my way. The Demon Soul Lord chopped with her saber. Although it was a quick chop, it still caused a blood moon to emerge and provided tremendous power. In contrast, the blood puppet had only launched a punch that did not seem special. When the two strikes collided, the power from the blood puppet's punch erupted. What? BG container 63275cc1F display. Flex direction, column align items, center justify content, center Z index, 214-748-3647. Important, her expression changed dramatically. The Demon Soul Lord could sense the power from her opponent's fist, but she was unable to defend herself against it. Her scarlet saber curved slightly from the punch. The tremendous power was transmitted from her arm to the insides of her body. Puff! The Demon Soul Lord spat out a mouthful of blood. Her aura was weakened and she sank to the ground. There had only been one collision, and the Demon Soul Lord, who was regarded as an excellent superior lord, had already received a serious injury. This is the Marquis battle strength. When the Demon Soul Lord was able to stand firmly, she looked up and howled violently. The howl echoed through the palace and made the lords of both camps stare. The Marquis battle strength? A puppet fighter in the Marquis level? Everyone looked at the blood puppet and nodded to themselves. One punch had seriously hurt the Demon Soul Lord. Obviously, the blood puppet must be at the level of Marquis battle strength. They wondered how someone in the Saint Realm could have a puppet fighter in the Marquis level. Even in the two camps, no one had ever owned a Marquis puppet. The battle strength of a Marquis puppet was equal to Marquis level. In both camps, only the Snow Marquis and the Marquis Xianxia had such battle strength. They didn't know that this blood puppet was created by the Sword Ancestor and that it was also the strongest one that he had ever made. This puppet fighter is worthy of Sword Ancestor's name. Before, the blood puppet had consumed only 3 blood gems, so it couldn't really exploit its power. Still, it had easily outclassed a heaven-defying level expert. So, if it consumes 4 blood gems, its battle strength will be on par with the regular level of a lord. If it consumes 6 blood gems, it should be comparable to an advanced lord. By consuming 10 blood gems, the blood puppet will reach the peak of its battle strength, equivalent to that of a Marquis. Moreover, it was the strongest puppet fighter made by the Sword Ancestor. It definitely wouldn't disappoint Jian Wushuang, would it? Demon Soul Lord, you must die today. Jian Wushuang's eyes were full of killing intent. The blood puppet turned into a flash of flowing light once again and rushed toward the Demon Soul Lord. At the same time, the blood river which had filled the palace flowed towards the Demon Soul Lord. The powerful pressure from the blood river limited her movement. Damn it! The Demon Soul Lord looked ferocious, but her expression betrayed doubt as she looked at the blood puppet. She knew that even at her optimum state, she could only flee from the blood puppet. Now, she had already suffered a serious injury and was also suffering the effects from Jian Wushuang's realm. She could barely defend herself now. Run, run! The Demon Soul Lord turned around and ran. Do you think you can escape? Jian Wushuang clenched his fist and successively launched several punches through the air. As he did so, the vast spiritual power that had gathered in his body exploded as well. Azura secret skill, 18 levels of hell. His voice echoed coldly through the palace. Abruptly, the environment changed. A huge scarlet pavilion slowly emerged. In it, a few ghostly shadows could be seen faintly, and they were howling. When the scarlet pavilion had completely emerged, an immaterial power instantly spread out. The Demon Soul Lord, who stood below the scarlet pavilion, felt the effects of its power immediately. She had been making her escape, but she suddenly paused in the void. It was only a short pause, as short as the blink of an eye. That was the extent of Jian Wushuang's power. After all, the Demon Soul Lord was a superior lord. Jian Wushuang's realm was still lower than hers. Even if Jian Wushuang exploited the 18 levels of hell to its fullest extent, it only could stop the consciousness of the Demon Soul Lord for a short moment. Even so, Jian Wushuang had already consumed 70% of his spiritual power. It was only the blink of an eye that was too short even for the lords of the two camps to do anything. However, it was different from the blood puppet. By consuming 10 blood gems, its battle strength was already on par with an ordinary Marquis. At Marquis level, its speed picked up as well. In just a short moment, the blood puppet had already caught up with the Demon Soul Lord. The Demon Soul Lord recovered her senses in a couple of minutes, but the blood puppet had already arrived and punched at her head. Damn it! The Demon Soul Lord panicked and she hurriedly waved the scarlet saber to parry the punch. Unfortunately, the serious injury she had already sustained was aggravated. Her scarlet saber was thrown off and she spat mouthfuls of blood. She involuntarily retreated. Before she was able to stand firmly, a huge scarlet palm suddenly appeared behind her. The scarlet palm had been formed by Jian Wushuang, who was driving the road to the underworld. The scarlet palm punched her, stopping her retreat and pushing her back toward the blood puppet. No! The Demon Soul Lord howled desperately. She saw the blood puppet clench a fist and punch toward her head. This time, she didn't have any chance to escape. Pang! The Demon Soul Lord's skull was crushed by the punch. Witnessing this, the lords from both camps were dumbfounded. Even the Black Yuan Lord was frightened. The Demon Soul Lord, the superior lord in the Six-Cloud realm, was very powerful. Even the Black Yuan Lord, who was better than the Demon Soul Lord, didn't have enough confidence to kill her. But now, the Demon Soul Lord was dead. Chapter 464, Myriad Islands Lord's Trump Card. The Demon Soul Lord was dead. She had attempted to murder someone in the Saint Realm. Unfortunately, she was killed by her opponent and his puppet fighter instead. Jian Wushuang, who killed the Demon Soul Lord, looked very calm. It seemed as though it had been easy for him to kill the Demon Soul Lord. Soon, he turned his icy glare at the Myriad Islands Lord. Killing intent suffused him again. The Demon Soul Lord and the Myriad Islands Lord had worked together to catch him unaware. The Demon Soul Lord had tried to distract him while the Myriad Islands Lord sneaked up behind him. Compared to the Demon Soul Lord, Jian Wushuang felt more murderous intent toward the Myriad Islands Lord. Myriad Islands Lord, the Demon Soul Lord has already died. Now, it's your turn. Jian Wushuang's deep and low voice reverberated coldly through the palace. The Myriad Islands Lord's expression froze, but he did not panic, nor was he terrified. Kill me. Only you and this puppet fighter. The Myriad Islands Lord looked disdainful. He turned his palm and soon an object showed up on it. .bg container 63275 CC1F display. Flex direction. Column align items. Center justify content. Center Z index. 214-748-3647. Important that was a scroll. The Myriad Islands Lord opened it. At the same time he launched several punches on it to make a few special marks. Soon, the scroll was filled with tremendous power. Whoosh! The activation of the scroll caused an energy shield to coalesce around the Myriad Islands Lord. Formation. Jian Wushuang looked at the energy shield and narrowed his eyes. Little boy, you shouldn't underestimate me. My formation is the best in both camps, so it's not as simple as what you see now. It's a pity that I rushed here and didn't have enough time to prepare, otherwise. The Myriad Islands Lord sneered. Jian Wushuang was quiet. He didn't issue any commands, but the blood puppet flew to the Myriad Islands Lord without any hesitation. Boom! The blood puppet had landed a violent punch on the energy shield, with a power strong enough to kill an advanced lord. Its punch landed on the energy shield surrounding the Myriad Islands Lord and dented it. The shield trembled as it erupted with a great deal of power that caused a strong roar. The energy shield was intact. It had not been smashed and the Myriad Islands Lord who was inside the shield was not hurt. Jian Wushuang squinted. The lords of both camps were amazed. What a powerful defensive formation, even the Marquis puppet couldn't break it. No wonder the Myriad Islands Lord's formation is the best in both camps. This defensive formation could save the Myriad Islands Lord. As long as the Myriad Islands Lord has this formation, it is impossible for the swordsman to kill him. Jian Wushuang and his Marquis puppet had easily killed the Demon Soul Lord who was a superior lord. That had stunned them. Even though the Myriad Islands Lord was not as strong as the Demon Soul Lord, he was regarded as the first master of formation in both camps. It would be more difficult to defeat him. The formation looks good. Jian Wushuang looked at the energy shield around the Myriad Islands Lord. He could tell that the energy shield was very unique and it could balance the energy by itself. After the attack from the blood puppet, the energy shield had consumed a bit of energy but had soon recovered. If I want to break the energy shield, I have to directly smash it with violent force. The power should only focus on one spot. However, the only person in both camps who is able to do that is the Marquis Lord, Jian Wushuang thought. A real Marquis, an expert above Seven Cloud Realm, had terrifying power and was also an expert of human being. He would be able to exploit the manual and the unique skill. By exploiting the unique skill, consolidating all power into a single point and unleashing that power instantly, one would be able to smash the energy shield. However, even though the blood puppet was a Marquis-level puppet fighter and had Marquis battle strength, it was still only a puppet fighter. He didn't know how to exploit the unique skill, wasn't able to focus all the power to one spot. He also couldn't control the timing of the explosion, so he wouldn't be able to break the energy shield. Swordsman, the Myriad Islands Lord raised his voice. You are only in the Saint Realm, but you have terrifying realm and excellent strength. You are already the best of the intermediate lords. Moreover, your body is also very powerful. The ninth heaven thunderbolt exploded near you, but you didn't really get hurt. Now, you show us a Marquis-level puppet fighter. We lords really envy your ability and skills. Upon hearing this, the lords of both camps looked surprised. Jian Wushuang's realm, his super powerful body, and the Marquis-level puppet fighter made them jealous. But Jian Wushuang was only in the Saint Realm. However, we only envy you. After all, you are not a real Marquis expert. You want to kill me but you won't be able to, the Myriad Islands Lord said with a big laugh. Really? Jian Wushuang looked up and stared at the Myriad Islands Lord coldly. I don't think so. Jian Wushuang took something out of the interspatial ring. It was a gold longbow with a sharp golden arrow. The gold longbow radiated a fierce aura. A bow. Noticing the longbow, the lords were slightly shocked. Jian Wushuang grinned and then threw the gold longbow to the blood puppet. The Dragon King Bow. It was one of the opportunities that Jian Wushuang had received in the Marquis Baymore Cave Mansion. He had kept it with him but had never used it. The Dragon King Bow was also a first-grade magic weapon and it contained great power. More importantly, the bow was able to focus all the power to one spot and to unleash that power in an instant. Myriad Islands Lord, you sure are confident about the strength of the energy shield. I'd really like to see if my blood puppet can break your tortoise shell with this Dragon King Bow. While Jian Wushuang was speaking, the blood puppet was slowly pulling the bowstring of the Dragon King Bow. While the blood puppet was only a puppet fighter and he didn't know any unique skills, he was able to follow Jian Wushuang's order to shoot an arrow. As the bowstring was stretched, a terrifying power gathered at one point. The bowstring emitted a few flashes of dazzling golden light. The Myriad Islands Lord who was being targeted by the Dragon King arrow felt its tremendous power. His eyes narrowed. Chapter 465, Dragon King Arrow, Shoot to Kill. This bow is a first-grade magic weapon. Myriad Islands Lord's expression changed slightly. The powerful energy shield around him was his largest trump card. Under normal circumstances, even a Marquis could not crack it unless he used his strongest skill. Myriad Islands Lord had thought that he could not be defeated by Jian Wushuang, who only owned a puppet fighter of Marquis level. A Marquis puppet would not know how to use its strongest skill, so it was impossible for it to break the energy shield. But it would be different if the Marquis puppet fighter was equipped with a first-grade magic weapon. The bow concentrated its strength at its point. As the blood puppet drew the bowstring and the terrible power accumulated, Myriad Islands Lord felt its threat. Inside the palace, lords of the two camps observed the Dragon King bow closely. At the moment, the blood puppet had already drawn the bowstring to about 80% of its full extent. Soon, it stretched to 90%. That was the limit of the blood puppet. The power that had condensed on the Dragon King arrow was astounding. 90%. Jian Wushuang nodded with satisfaction. .bg container 63275 CC1F display. Flex direction. Column align items. Center justify content. Center Z index. 214. 748-3647. Important: the drawing resistance of the Dragon King bow was extremely high. When Jian Wushuang had just obtained the bow, he had drawn it to 10% with his best efforts. Later, he had found Marquis Baymore's opportunity, which had increased his strength, particularly in the physical aspects. This had enabled him to draw it to a limit of 50%. It was extremely difficult for the blood puppet to draw the bow to 90%. Probably, only actual marquises could hold it at full draw. With the accumulated power reaching its peak, the blood puppet suddenly loosened its tight palm. Chuu. A golden flowing light crossed the sky with a long tail like a comet. Fast. It was too fast. It was so swift that everyone present forgot to dodge. Myriad Island's lord knew that he could not escape from the arrow. He stood still and stared attentively at the Dragon King arrow. Although he had full confidence in the energy shield around him, he felt fearful as the arrow flew toward him. Erring on the side of caution, he operated his spiritual power to build another spiritual power shield around his body. The golden comet dragged its long tail and hit the energy shield around Myriad Island's lord. Boom! The terrible power that had condensed to an extreme density suddenly broke out and swept through the energy shield in a frenzy. Simultaneously, the energy shield tried to resist its advances and released vast amounts of power. Kai! 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 Subtle sounds from the pressure of energies colliding reverberated through the palace. The lords had already fallen silent. Even Black Yuan Lord and others who had been fighting the golden puppet fighters and golden purple puppets stopped to look at them. At the point of impact, the energy shield had been completely dented. At the center of the dent, a sharp light pounded heavily and drilled a tiny hole in the energy shield. The lords narrowed their eyes in surprise. Myriad Island's lord took a deep breath and roared angrily. There was another spiritual power shield formed by his own spiritual power around him. It helped to hold off the golden comet, but was eventually pierced by it. The golden comet encountered great resistance as it pushed toward Myriad Island's lord. After drilling through the two shields, the power of golden comet was exhausted. When it arrived at Myriad Island's lord's chest, its point merely pierced his skin and then stopped. Myriad Island's lord breathed heavily and his whole back was soaked in sweat. He had been really scared when the Dragon King arrow had pierced his shields. Fortunately, the power of the Dragon King arrow had been depleted just as it was going to penetrate his body. Myriad Island's lord felt that he was at the extreme edge of survival. Then he laughed wildly. Ha ha, swordsman, you can't kill me. You can't kill me. The broken energy shield began to repair itself at a surprising speed. In a blink of an eye, it was completed repaired, and the Dragon King arrow was pushed out by the energy shield. This energy shield had become intact again. Seeing this, the surrounding lords all sighed. What a pity! It was so close. He nearly killed Myriad Island's lord. Only Myriad Island's lord can survive that arrow. If it were us, we would be dead. Even Black Yuan Lord with his strong body can't resist that arrow. The lord sighed and felt pity for Jian Wushuang. Swordsman, I said before, you can't kill me. No matter what aces you have, you can't kill me, haha. Myriad Island's lord was still laughing hysterically. Jian Wushuang was calm as he looked at Myriad Island's lord with a hint of pity in his eyes. Myriad Island's lord, Jian Wushuang finally said. Myriad Island's lord stopped laughing and looked at Jian Wushuang with a trace of arrogance. Jian Wushuang shook his head and sneered, it's too early for you to feel lucky. Well. Myriad Island's lord was puzzled at first, but he suddenly looked down at his chest hurriedly. The arrow had not really hurt him, but it had touched his body and pierced his skin. He looked down to inspect the wound. He was terrified by what he saw. This is... Myriad Island's lord stared at his chest. A patch of white had appeared. The white patch was spreading at an alarming speed and nearly covered his entire chest. Meanwhile, he felt a creepy chill spreading through his body and freezing his consciousness. The patch of white continued to spread and finally covered his entire body. Click, click. As the chill condensed, Myriad Island's lord turned into ice. The wind blew. Whoosh. The ice sculpture shattered.